Death is common for everyone, but most of the time we do not have a choice in how we die, as it has been shaped, designed, and managed by society and technology. It is worth discussing the rights and obligations of death. Today, we focus on a very specific death technique, the three-drug cocktail protocol. It's a formula behind the execution of the death penalty in the United States. Back to 1976, the U.S. Supreme Court reinstated the death penalty in Gregg v. Georgia, but asked the states to devise a more human execution method. Electric chairs and gas chambers have become scandals as the prisoners' obvious convulsions and suffocation were recorded in the news reports. Therefore, Oklahoma Congressman Bill Wiseman commissioned the state's chief forensic doctor, J. Chapman, to design a better plan. Chapman wrote down 3 kinds of medicine on the napkin. In 1977, without being clinically tested or peer-reviewed, Oklahoma became the first state to legalize the death penalty by injection. By firstly making people unconscious, then causing systemic paralysis, and finally stopping the heart, the three-drug cocktail protocol kills people in a way that looks like sleeping. Many years later, Chapman said, "I wish I never heard of it," while Wiseman became an Anglican priest, calling it not the kind of thing you put in the scrapbook for your grandson. From this technology, we see 3 main impacts on the practice of death. First, medicalization. Through intravenous injection, sterile space, and a clinical restraint belt, the three-drug agreement transforms national killing from visible violence to something that looks like surgery. Scholars call it a medical code. Second, the contradiction. In many states, medical professionals are required to supervise executions by law. However, the American Medical Association clearly prohibits doctors from participating, saying that it violates the core morality of no harm. As a result, the executions were carried out by prison staff without adequate medical training. This is a contradiction directly built into the technology. Third, the privacy of death. Many states have passed confidentiality laws to hide the identity of executives, concealing the source of drugs and removing the whole process from the public. When the execution process disappears from the public, accountability will also disappear. On the positive side, comparing to the electric chair and gas chamber, this protocol reduced the visible pain and the families of the victims could witness the peaceful process. This protocol also triggered a broader conversation about the death with dignity. The same logic of this is also applied by the hospital in Netherlands and Belgium. So this technology provides a less painful way of death for those who choose euthanasia. But scholar Austin Sarrett called this killing gently. By repackaging violence with a symbol of care, it makes the execution look human. Instead of asking, "Should we do it?" he turned to ask, "Are we human enough to execute?" Then there is the issue of race. Technology seems neutral, but blacks and Latinos account for 53% of death row prisoners. Research shows that the defendant who killed the white victims is much more likely to be sentenced to death. An analysis by Reprieve in 2024 found that 50% of failed executions occurred on black prisoners, who only accounted for 1/3 of those executed. The civilizing of execution didn't erase structural inequality, it just made inequality harder to see. In 2010, the drug crisis came. The only thiopentosodium producer in the US stopped supplying because they refused to use their products to end human life. The European Union immediately banned the export of related drugs. As a result, states used untested alternative drugs, and the number of wrong execution cases increased. What the three-drug cocktail protocol ultimately tells us is not only about implementation, but also about what happens when technology is not used to solve the problem, but makes the problem look like it has been solved. When we make death look peaceful, we should ask, for whom is it peaceful? What can't we see behind that peace?